Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a wizard build guide for Solasta 2's early access. Now, the wizard is actually extremely powerful this time around because they got some strong subclasses that make up for the damage that they won't be dealing with meta magics. Because the new School of Ruin here gets destructive magic, which lets them deal additional damage equal to the dice that they're rolling for their attacks here, and this actually does quite a bit of damage. And we also have the Court Mage, which has Spell Shield here, being very defensive. I'll be showing you builds for both of these subclasses. Now, the main difference between the wizard and the sorcerer, as the sorcerer is a charisma-based class, there's only really the wizard for intelligence-based class for all the skills that you'll need. There is a rogue subclass, a shadowcaster. It also works on intelligence, but this is going to be a solid one, and they're less complex because they get to prepare more spells. They also get saving throws in intelligence and wisdom being great for some of the spells that are very bad to get hit with. We also get simple weapon proficiency, but we can also get light armor as well as shield proficiency very easily, which I'll show you guys. The wizard also gets ritual adept, so if you have any ritual spells in your spell book, you don't have to prepare them and you can cast them, which is just really nice. Now, we want to roll with an specific ancestry here. Now, you can roll with the high elf because this will give us another cantrip here, which brings us up to the amount that the sorcerer would get, and it also will give us long strider at level 3 and then later on misty step. But the sylvan elves also gives us increased movement speed here, and the venomous spike cantrip dealing 1d6 piercing plus 1d4 of poison damage. Now, the human is extremely good because of their versatile here, which lets you take the ready for war. This gives you proficiency in light armor, shields, and martial weapons, although we can get this from another method. Now, you can play as a dwarf. They get the resistance to poison damage and they get additional hit points. You can also play as a halfling for their luck, re-rolling d20s if you get a 1, and you also get advantage on frightened saves. But I think the human and the elf are the two best here, and the human's actually really good in Player's Handbook 2024. Where they don't get the dark vision that the elf and the dwarf get, they still can use lanterns, different light source, even the light cantrip to be able to get their sight. But the big thing is that versatile. Now, we don't really need to take the ready for war because we're going to get this from our background. So I'd actually recommend either the quick, which will increase our movement speed and give opportunity attacks disadvantage, or robust, which is going to increase our hit point maximum by 1. I think this is a better option. It puts us on par with the dwarf here, but with additional skills that we really want. This will also stabilize you if you go down, and the wizard's the most likely character to go down, so yeah, that is not a bad thing to have. The human also gets the heroic inspiration here, and that's really nice to have alongside the skillful, giving you an additional skill. Now, for our background, since I mentioned that, we'd want to use the spell sword here, which is going to give us constitution and intelligence skills, but also this gives us ready for war. We want that light armor and shield proficiency really badly because that's going to give us just a straight +4 to our hermit class, and we don't have to worry about mage armor, which is nice. The wanderer is another awesome choice if you wanted to focus more, I guess, I meant to say the spy here if you want to focus more on like having a high dexterity, but spell sword is definitely the best. And the acolyte is another one. If you want to get the magic initiate cleric, which can give us some cleric spells using our intelligence, this is not a bad option, honestly. And there's even the academic here, which will give you the magic initiate wizard, which does work too. These two are okay, but I do think the spell sword just ends up being by far the best for the light armor proficiency and shields. Again, giving us such a massive boost to our overall armor class. And then our ability scores are going to look like this. I like to have my constitution on 16, just giving us a little tiny bit more survivability as a wizard, and intelligence at 16, our main spellcasting modifier. Dexterity at 14. This will give us a slight boost to our overall armor class, and then we can put our points at 10 wisdom and charisma just for the saves. We don't have that -1, although strength is kind of the stat we do have to avoid here, unfortunately. And we'd be putting 2 of the points on constitution and intelligence here from our background. Now, we have a lot of skills here. The best part is we're not contesting them with anyone else. Like wisdom skills, your cleric will have. Charisma is going to be either your sorcerer or your paladin. We can take arcana, investigation here. I do find that investigation checks come up decently. Like both of these actually come up quite a bit more than I've noticed. History checks do come up, and religion as well. But the nice thing is we also get a human ancestry additional skill here, which lets us take any of these here. So if we want to grab history or nature even, and even religion. Now, I find from the 3 of these that it's history that comes up a little bit more than the others, just from my multiple playthroughs already. Now, we got language proficiencies. I want to mention that you should spread these around between your team because they actually do help out quite a bit. If you know certain languages, there's encounters that you want to use these in. So this is something to coordinate with the rest of your team. Whatever they don't have, you're going to take, and you obviously set this up at the start of the game. Now, we can take 3 cantrips here. I really like to have like the Firebolt cantrip here has 120-foot range, so this is going to be one of the highest range that we can get. We can also go with the higher damage poison spray, which only has a 30-foot range, but it does a 1d12 of poison damage, so this can end up doing a little bit more in some instances. I also like to have Ray of Frost for kiting. I also do recommend grabbing the Shadow Dagger, so it'd probably be like a mixture of either Poison Spray or Ray of Frost, Firebolt for the long range, and then Shadow Dagger, which has a 60-foot radius, but it's a Wisdom save, so sometimes you're not likely to land Firebolt, and you're more likely to land your Shadow Dagger. Now for our spells, we get to prepare 6, a lot of them. We're gonna grab Magic Missile, very powerful spell. Shield, which will protect you from Magic Missile, but also increase your armor class by 5. Sometimes you need that to stay alive. We'll also grab Chromatic Orb. Now, you can actually purchase a diamond to let you cast this. It doesn't consume the diamonds or anything, the tiny diamond you can get. Right before, at the start of the game, right before the funeral, there's a merchant there that sells it, or any of the other shops. It costs around, like, 75 gold pieces. It's worth taking because Chromatic Orb is crazy. If you roll the same damage die number on 2 of the damage dies as a 3d8, let's say you rolled an 8 and an 8, it's going to actually let you cast in another one at a target that's nearby. This is really good damage. I also like to have Burning Hands. This is a good spell to be able to hit in a large area of effect if there's multiple enemies nearby. Comprehend Languages can be really good, as well as the Identify. These are 2 spells that we don't even have to have prepared, and we're always going to have available to us. Identify is just so useful, so I'd recommend having that. And Mage Armor is nice, but we have Light Armor Proficiency, which can actually give us a solid armor class value in the early game, so I like to keep it at that. So we'll take Thunderwave. It has a large hitbox, and it can knock enemies out of range. And here is an overview of everything we just went over. And upon hitting level 2, you get our Arcane Recovery, but we can also prepare at the Ray of Sickness here, doing a 2d8 and poisoning the target, giving them disadvantage of their attack rolls. Actually a pretty decent spell if the combat's going to go extended against the target. And then it's level 3 where we get our subclass. Now, the Court Mage is returning from Solasta 1. This is going to give us shield proficiency, which we already have, and the shielding fighting style, which lets us stand beside a teammate and use our reaction to give them a +2 to their armor class, just for 1 attack. This is okay, but later on we're going to get counterspell, which when the level cap increases is way better. So yeah, this can be something you can choose if you want to, but spell shield's really the big feature here. Create a spell shield around yourself and a friendly creature you can see within 30 feet. The shield will have 3 times your wizard level, so 12 hit health points. It's crazy, and it absorbs the damage for the targets. If it goes to 0, it disappears and the creature takes the remaining damage. And you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So right now it's only 2 times, but that's amazing because we short rest or long rest all the time. So yeah, this is something that's actually pretty useful for protecting your team. However, the School of Ruin, I want to show you guys the damage from this thing is pretty crazy. So when you roll damage for a spell you cast, you can deal additional damage for each die that you roll. If the spell creates multiple projectiles, this feature applies to each projectile individually. So yeah, Scorching Ray go, brrr, it's crazy. We also have Ruination Savant here, which your 2 wizards, you get to choose 2 wizard spells and add them to our spellbook for free. In addition, whenever we get access to a new level of spell slot, we can add another wizard spell in that deals damage for free. And that's really nice because it's just going to let us prepare even more spells. So for the level 2 spells that we're taking at level 3, I would recommend Scorching Ray, 2d6 of fire damage. We love it. And Hold Person, which can paralyze the target. It's a wisdom save, so less likely for the enemies to succeed on it, and it takes them out of the fight, which is very nice. But Scorching Ray is going to be our major damage option. Acid Arrow can be okay if you really like that spell. And we also get to take 2 more spells here from our School of Magic, and they can only be damage spells. I'm not sure Magic Missile unprepared by accident. So we'll take Shatter, as well as you can throw an Acid Arrow as well. Acid Arrow will jump around to multiple targets, and Shatter has actually a very large hitbox, and Thunder damage is good against like crabs. If you're fighting against those, they get shattered by this. And constructs will have disadvantage on the save, although I haven't really seen many of those much. So these spells I would recommend having on here. And then hitting level 4 will give us another choice in cantrip. We can take like Acid Splash, but I like Annoying Bees. This does a 1d4 piercing, so low damage, but it gives the target disadvantage on concentration saving throws, so we can break concentrations a little bit easier. I really like to have that there, so that's a good choice. I also like to have the Enhance Ability spell here. It's a concentration, but you can give a target advantage on ability checks. Great for charisma checks. You can really use it anywhere. Dark Vision even helps too, which can help an ally out with getting them Dark Vision, but it's not super necessary, I've noticed so far, and you got lanterns and things like that. So I'm going to throw on Acid Arrow, and even Life Drain does a 2d8 necrotic damage and grants temporary hit points, which is pretty useful, granting the same amount. So that is actually a very solid option just to give you some sustain as a wizard. And then it's our ability score improvement, our final option. Now, we can go with some of the other options here, and if you took an ability score to 17, this is another way to actually increase it. Things like Flawless Concentration here, if we wanted to hold Person for longer, this will be better later on in the game, but this gives a +1 to Constitution, advantage of Constitution saving throws, and maintain concentration, and you can if you take 10 damage or less, you don't even break your concentration. It's pretty insane how good that is. Now, Powerful Cantrips is also interesting, letting us increase our intelligence by 1, and also when a target succeeds their saving throw, they'll take half damage. And I also like the uncanny accuracy because you can add an ability score improvement to any ability, so intelligence obviously, and you get eagle eyed, so your range attacks with both weapons and spells will ignore half and 3/4 cover. So yeah, you're much more accurate with this. For this build, I do think an ability score improvement, however, to take our intelligence up to 18 is the best move. So again, you can go with the other options if you found those to be a little bit better, and if you put your stats to 17. Just be mindful that doing it that way will give you a -1 to another roll, so it is sacrificing something that may not be worth doing. Now for the spells that we would like to have prepared, I like having Chromatic Orb. Again, remember you can purchase one of these near the start of the game or at any most merchants. Ray of Sickness just to poison targets that are in melee range. We got Shield here to save ourselves, and Magic Missile for guaranteed damage. This is nice for picking off low health enemies. Now we also got Scorching Ray doing a very solid amount of damage. This is going to be our main damage spell, and Hold Person is going to be there if we need a bit of utility. Now the wizard's role in combat, it's a damage dealer obviously, but if you're playing as the Court Mage, you can also focus on a bit of sustain for your team. So this is really going to depend. If you're likely to hit with some of your spells, you want to go for those, but if you're not, you're probably better off going with something like Shadow Dagger. This is the opposite here, where Scorching Ray is going to be a solid option, and you can also go with Crowd Control. If the target is, you know, in a position where your teammates can get a lot of extra hits in, and if you're looking at the initiative order, you can kind of plan ahead. I would always recommend reducing any targets that's in between you and your teammates here, because like this target here, if I was able to get after them, only has 9 hit points, and I unfortunately cannot reach them. But you want to use that kind of strategy to think ahead about where to go ahead with your attacks. So I was going to go with the Scorching Ray here for the pretty powerful attacks that we can get. It didn't finish him off there. We missed one of them, but yeah, that ability that we get from the Destructive Magic is super useful. Now for our bonus action, we don't have meta magics, but we can use things like Expeditious Retreat, and even the Dazzle cantrip can work good if you wanted to take that from like from the cleric there. We also have a potion that we can use at any moment, and I would recommend giving your wizard as many potions as possible for that reason, because you have other characters like fighters that can sustain, lay hands on a paladin, and healing word from clerics, so the wizard really needs that. Now, unfortunately, getting confronted does happen. That's where we don't really want to use some of our range attacks, because you see there, we don't have that great chance of hitting anymore. It's only a 30% chance. I unprepared good old-fashioned using the Burning Hands there, but we do have Thunder Wave here, which can also work decently, and it's got a good pushback on it too, which is hilarious. It does. It's early access. There are issues that can pop up, but it's fun. And the last spell I want to talk about is how good Chromatic Orb is. So if you hit and roll the same damage die, you get to attack twice with it. So this can be pretty crazy if you get lucky with it, but even so, it's got solid damage overall, especially with this subclass. That is a wizard build in Solasta 2's early access. Now, you do want to have that diamond if at all possible, throw on a shield, and even if you can find light armor, there's a few good sets, even at the very start of the game when you fight the kobolds there, slinging the bodies around like that. But yeah, whenever you get the light armor, you're going to want to equip it on as soon as possible, even though this wizard outfit is very nice looking, so yeah. I'm not sure why it does that whenever you close a menu as the ragdoll bodies there, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I hope you guys all have an incredible day. We'll catch you all in the next one.